Welcome to 10-5, the official podcast of the OPP Association. I am Scott Mills. I am one of your hosts for our podcast. My colleague Emily Brown works tirelessly behind the scenes on editing our podcast and is often our co-host. And Emily is on assignment this week. She'll be back next week. Or in the next episode, we have episodes every other week. Issued on a Friday. For those new listeners, the OPP Association represents nearly 10,000 members of the Ontario Provincial Police in Canada. Our members are at the heart of everything we do, and they are our greatest strength. We're dedicated to keeping our members and the public informed about key issues that impact policing across Ontario. And today, we welcome retired OPP Sergeant Steve MacNally as our guest to talk about the value of being involved in the Ontario Provincial Police Association. So just a little bit of background on Steve. He retired in January 2024 from Lambton County. He was a road supervisor. And as well, he was the Branch 1 OPPA President, and he had 37 years of service. Remarkable career. Steve did experience some mental health challenges that caused him to take a leave in 2018 from his duties. And he was adamant that he would get back to the job he loved before retiring. And we feel he's a shining example of resilience and perseverance. And we've asked him to come in on the show here. And Steve's coming to us today from his home in Sarnia. So welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm happy to share my story.
Well, we are very happy that you've joined us here today, too, Steve. So I know you and I have talked about you joining the podcast many times, and it's kind of good timing that you are joining for this episode, as we're going to put it out this Friday, and that's just the weekend before the OPP Association 2024 annual general meeting, which is scheduled for next week. So for anyone not familiar with the OPP Association, the annual general meeting is a very important and meaningful event to the organization. And I understand that even in retirement, Steve, you plan on attending next week at the AGM, and you certainly are a good person to talk with about the value of being involved in the OPP Association.
Yeah, Scott, the OPPA has been as you know, near and dear to my heart for most of my career.
Well, it's I just want to, a lot of people don't know about the AGM. Can you tell us just a little bit about kind of who's invited, who can go, what happens there?
Well, absolutely. Well, I would encourage all members to take the opportunity to go to our AGM. The AGM is a roundtable of all the delegates who are your executive that you vote in locally from all the different branches around the province. The roundtable where the delegates meet represent your local members, and those local members are your voice to your executive, to head office in Barrie. So we have these meetings, pass bylaws, etc., and just to learn what's going on with the contracts, pensions, things like that. So I encourage everyone's able to attend. Just seek out your home branch, see about attending. It's something that when you see it, you'll go, holy smokes, I didn't realize that it was all this involved.
Yeah, I agree, Steve. It's quite an impressive event, and it's very professionally done. And that round table or caucus as people see it. There's a lot of really excellent work that's done around that table. So I find it quite interesting that even after a 37-year career that you want to go back and you want to continue to contribute, Steve. So I think that's amazing.
Well, thank you. Like I said, it's near and dear to my heart, and I've always been out there to. I've always advocated for the members, and I think that with all the new members that we have on now, they should get involved in the association when they're younger, and continue that on through their career. When you come out to meetings, like local meetings, your branch meetings, they're very important. So you can not only socialize and get together, but you get to hear what's going on pretty much around the province. So I would encourage everybody to come out, and it's a free meal. You get to have something to eat and sit around and talk and find out what's going on and just become involved. And then you can hear, if you have any issues, you can hear them at your local branch level, and then your branch takes it up to head office in Barrie.
It's great to have your voice out here, Steve, and somebody that's been quite involved. We over the years we've dug into the archives here, and we found out that you joined the OPP as a new constable in 1988, and you were first posted to a duration posting. I think it was about 5 years in Long Lac, Ontario, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that might have turned into about 10 years.
It felt like 10, but it was only 4.
It was only 4. Then I think according to the records I was looking at in 2005, you got involved formally in the executive of the OPPA. And if I'm doing my math right, you were actively involved in the OPPA for 30 of your 37 years of your career. So congratulations on your years of service to both the OPP and your community and the OPPA, and congratulations on your well-earned retirement.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate your kind words. It makes me feel old, But yeah, I started in 88 in Long Lac, and then in 92 I came to Forest Detachment, and was in Forest until 2013, where I was promoted and went to Goderich for a couple of years, and then came back to Lambton County as a shift supervisor in 2015, and that's where I ended my career. Just trying to think. Yeah, so I was involved as a local branch rep for a number of years, and then got involved in the executive, as you said, around 2005, and maintained that until I went up to Goderich for 2 years. And then when I came back, I was I got involved as a secretary of Branch 1. And then in, I believe it was 2017, I took over as branch president until I retired this year. I was branch president to the end of last year. And Lambton, also Branch 1 also covers, just so everybody's aware, covers Essex, Kent, and Lambton County. So we have just over 300 members. So it's a pretty big branch.
It's a big responsibility. How do you get to be kind of elected to be a branch president? How's that all work?
Well, you get involved in the association branch level as a rep. And in our county, we have directors. So we have Essex, Kent, and Lambton directors. So you start as a Lambton director, and then you do a term there, and then you can apply or run for branch president or branch VP, and then it's up to the members of your branch to vote who they want in.
Well, clearly you had support for some time, and that is a large area. You had to be quite busy in addition to your duties with the OPP. And so I understand you were promoted by the OPP, like you said. And sometimes we hear that if you get involved in your police association, or a lot of people say it's the police union. We don't call them police unions here in Ontario. It's police associations, that your chances of getting promoted are limited within your organization. Is this the case, Steve, or is this just a myth?
Well, I was fortunate enough to get promoted, and when I got promoted, I was the branch secretary. So, in my case, no. I've heard that in the past, but I don't necessarily believe that. I see, with the way the promotional process is now, it's pretty tough to say that you won't get promoted if you're involved in the OPPA. I believe being involved in the OPPA actually assists the members when you're a supervisor, because then you know what the collective agreements are, and you know when you're not breaching somebody's collective agreements rights, and it makes things a lot better between your subordinates and upper management. And of course, being a sergeant, I was a supervisor, but I was also branch president. But in the end, I had a job to do as a OPP sergeant, but you don't breach your rights of your members either. So I always made sure that my members were taken care of. At least I tried to the best of my ability to. And for the most part, had a good working relationship with the OPP management where I worked. It wasn't really a us versus them mentality. We always tried to come to a solution that worked for the member, first of all. And then if it worked for the OPP, then that's what we did.
Well, I find it as well, having experienced policing in, Peel and Toronto in my past, and then being here with the OPPA, working for 5 years. It's definitely a collaborative working relationship, which I think is good. And kudos to you for being involved and understanding the process, and you're definitely a wealth of information as a result. So, when we were kind of discussing about doing this podcast here, I asked you. I know that you went off work, as we stated earlier, with some mental health challenges, and if you're good with it. If you're good with that, we wouldn't mind asking you a few questions about what led you in 2018 to decide you had to take some time off.
Yeah, I'd be happy to share that, Scott. I've never hit it, and if it will help even one person out, then absolutely. We've come a long way with our mental health compared to what it was in the past. I know there's still some reluctance out there to admit that we need help, but you definitely can get back on your feet again. It's hard work, but worth it for both you, your family, and your colleagues. And I know with my story, it started off in 2012 when I was diagnosed with PTSD. Back then, our friends from WSIB, and I'm saying that as not really our friends at all, considered it a workplace stress injury. But anyhow, no matter how you look at it, it's PTSD. And I worked on that. I didn't miss any work. And of course, WSIB used that against me when I filed in 2018 and been turned down. However, in 2018, so anyways, getting back to when I was diagnosed, I continued on, just continued to work, didn't miss a day of work. And then in 2018, kind of hit rock bottom, and I needed to go off. I went off for 6 months, and I don't know if I would have came back when I did, if I was covered by WSIB, but I ran out of time. and I needed to come back so I could at least get paid for working and get a paycheck. So, I went off in March of 18, came back in September of 18, and felt there was a stigma attached to it. You know, that they phrase that you're one of the walked wounded. So that was always hard when I came back in 18, to come back and have to do administrative duties until I could go back on the road. And then there was some disconnect between my psychologist and the OPP back then, when they kept your kit if you missed work for 30 days or more. And then, if you couldn't work the front line, you couldn't have your use of force back, even though your doctor said you were good to have your use of force back. And as you know, Scott, you were a uniform guy. Being without your use of force, they wanted you in uniform, working your men, but you couldn't wear your use of force. You kind of felt naked. You're missing your tools of the trade. So after a little bit of a hard-fought battle between my doctor, the OPPA, and my doctor with the OPPA, I finally was able to get my use of force back and go on block training in 2020, and then finally get back to the road. When I first went to my psychologist, one of the things that she had asked me was, what's my goal? Because I could have retired when I went off in March of 18. I was eligible for retirement in January of that year. And one of the goals I said was, I'm not quitting this job until I get back to where I started. And that was the front line. For me, that was the front line. And everybody's different. Everybody's timelines are different. So my goal was not to retire until I was able to work the front line again. And fortunately enough for me, I was able to do that in 2020, and I retired as a frontline supervisor.
Well, congratulations on that, Steve. It's quite the battle. I myself, I've had to do the same thing as you, and I know you and I talked about this, and it is quite good to share that, be vulnerable about all this. I really do think it helps others, and I was just wondering if do you feel like you could share kind of some of the symptoms that you were seeing in yourself and others were seeing in you that kind of led you to the time off and to get the treatment?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things was irritability. My temper was really getting bad. Get set off at the littlest things, especially with your family. One of my triggers that I noticed was the lack of sleep. So back in 18, I was working the traffic and marine unit, so I really didn't work like a night shift, and I was doing pretty good. And then they asked me to go back to the front line. And I didn't really want to go back to the front line, but that's part of your job, because I knew that I needed to deal with some issues. And so I made an appointment to see my psychologist, but I didn't have the opportunity to really have the time with her before they were going to put me back on the front line. So anyways, with her, and that's when I initially went off, because we needed to work on a plan where I could deal with the lack of sleep and things like that, and deal with what I was going on through my head. But anxiety was huge. I felt like I was having a heart attack sometimes. When my blood pressure went through the roof. Just things like that. And being quiet, being distant, not getting engaged in things at home. You come to work, you just do your job, and then go home and can't sleep. Sometimes you get nightmares. So I knew I needed to get some help before I went back to the front line, and that's what I did. And I was very fortunate that I was able to meet my goal or get my goal before I retired. Even today, even after retirement, I know there's people out there that don't believe this is real or don't believe it's true, and it's just a way to sit in an office because you don't want to work the front line, or you don't want to do your job and you just rather get paid by sitting at home. And, there's people out there that think that PTSD is a joke. And, well, I don't believe that. I'm still going to see my counselor. I do this thing called EMDR. I do that every other week still. And I see my psychologist every other week when I'm not doing my EMDR. So it helps me. I don't have the anxiety anymore. I'm not on my blood pressure pills anymore. I'm enjoying retirement. And that's one of the things that I didn't want to go into retirement with was the ghosts in the closets. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard to come out and say that you have a problem or an illness. But for the sake of your family, and that's who the most important people are, is your family, because they see it more than anybody else does. They live it, all for doing your job, and the job is what created your issues that you do have. Coming back from my time, the old thing is, hey pal, if you can't handle it, maybe this job isn't for you. And that's not the case. Everybody's, as they say, everybody's cup's a different size. And eventually it will overflow. And that was one of the hardest things that I had to deal with was, why me? Why is this happening to me now? Why am I having this issue? I was I didn't want to believe that I had PTSD. You come on this job thinking that you're the one that's in charge, you're in control, things won't affect me. And that's the way you're trained, and that's the way we were brought up. Back in my day anyway. And I know some of it still exists. But you need to do what's right for you. You need to do what's right for your family. And if you need the help, just go off and get the help and come back when you're healthy, if you can come back. Like I said, everybody's story is different, but it is real. It is true. And I think it's getting better. I feel it's getting better. There's still more work that needs to be done. There's a lot more supports out there, and just talking to people. And one of the things that I try to do as a supervisor is when we went to an event, whether it's a sudden death or a fatal or whatever it be, that you sit down with the people that attended and have a chat with them, make sure they're okay, because we never did that in the past. So the last couple of years, it's just not, I shouldn't say me, there's been more of that being done by supervisors, and I feel that's very important as well. And I feel it's very important for all these new people, all the new hires, to go and get evaluated when you start, get a baseline where you're at, and then you can go from there. Because if you're not healthy mentally, it's no different than you're not healthy physically. You're no good to anyone until you get better.
I couldn't agree with you more, Steve. I know I've done a bunch of EMDR as well. Are you able to, I know it's like we hear about it talked about, but for people that just haven't reached out for the help, what does like an EMDR session look like with a therapist for, a long-time cop?
Well, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I thought it was hokey pokey crap.
So did I.
When I first heard about it, and after my first session, I went, wow, this is, I think this kind of works. So with mine, I had to give 10 examples, 10 different incidents. And we started off with one that was early on in my career. So my EMDR consists of these hand buzzers that you hold in your hand.
Yeah.
And then you slowly, it's about a 2-hour process. At least mine is anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. And you talk about the event, you relive the event. And what the purpose for me anyway, and again, I'm sure everybody's different, is it allows me to talk about the event without the emotional attachment to it, like it used to be before having the treatment. So as you're talking about it, the buzzes will get activated, and somehow that stimulates your brain and moves that incident into another section of your brain. So you don't forget the event. You're able to better talk about the event without so much emotional attachment to it, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. I couldn't have said that any better. And I know for me, you get tired after. Do you get tired?
Oh yeah. Like I said, the first time I did it, I'm like, okay, well, see where this goes, because I'm open to try it, to try anything like that. That was because I was still having some issues, and I was open to trying it. And actually, I'm doing one this afternoon after we're done talking here. So I find it works for me. There's other treatments that they're starting to come out with, like ketamine, and I guess there's a magic mushroom one as well. I'm going to stick with what I'm using for. I'm almost done doing my EMDR, so it's helped me. And anybody out there that's sitting on the fence about it, try it. What does it hurt to try? If you don't shoot, you don't score. May or may not work for you, but I'm thinking that if you go in with a positive attitude, looking to seek some help and get better, then why not try it?
Yeah, I think it's also, it's not just for kind of incidents that that we're experiencing in our work as police officers. It could be kind of in your personal life too, right? Like
100% right.
Yeah, like losing a parent, or a spouse, divorce, issues with your kids, whatever it is. So whatever it's causing the trauma. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel a lot better too, and I know you and I've talked before. It's pretty crazy. We're sitting here talking about it publicly on a podcast. So this never would have happened 10 years ago, I don't think.
Oh, it wouldn't have happened 10 years ago. No.
So
I appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk about it. Like I said, if there's anybody out there that's listening to this that's struggling, man, please reach out. There's help out there for you. And just do it. If you can't do it for yourself, then do it for your family.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Steve. We had another sergeant with the OPP on the podcast named Bruce Angel. If you're listening to this and you want to hear another sergeant kind of tell his story about this stuff, Bruce came on and told his story, and it's still up on our website. Just Google Sergeant Bruce Angel, OPP. And afterwards, Bruce reached out to us, and he said the day that podcast went out, within the next few days, he received over 300 messages from colleagues congratulating him for getting the help, and many indicated to him that his story resonated with them, and they were going to go and seek some help too as a result. So I'm pretty sure something like that's going to happen with you, Steve, when people start hearing this. So, sharing is very brave, and I believe it's really important to inspire others. So thanks again for being so candid about that, Steve.
Oh, you're welcome, Scott. It isn't easy to admit that you need some help. In hindsight, it was the best thing that I ever did for myself, my family, and everyone that I work with. And, even for people I deal with in the community, it's a win-win situation, I believe, to ask for help with your mental health.
Yeah, I agree. And it kind of brings me to another kind of buzzwords that you hear. We often hear of return to work or RTW. Some of it good experiences, some of it bad experiences, depending on who you talk to. And I know you kind of outlined a little bit about your return to work. Can you share with us your journey to return to work, kind of the ups and downs, and any advice to anybody going through these situations to come back?
Yeah, certainly. Well, the first advice that I'll share is to get your association involved with your return to work journey, because some of it, again, being branch president, I've seen a few of them. Some were seamless and worked great. Other ones were just banging your head against the wall to get the member back to where they need to be, fighting with management. With mine, I came back in September of 18. My doctor cleared me to have my use of force and everything December of 2009 or of 18 as well. And then I was hoping to get into block training in that, but as you know, sorry, I should back that up a little bit. So I was a min sergeant in the courts, and then I went and was changed in April to a min sergeant at one of the detachments, all the while trying to get it so I could get my use of force back, fighting with the OPP to get my use of force back. But because I wasn't able to totally work frontline yet without some restrictions, they wouldn't allow me to go to frontline. And that's very frustrating, because you hear the OPP say, we want our people who are off to get back to work. We're short, and it puts a lot of stress on the member that's off too, that knowing that they're short, that we can't get back out there to help. And then you have members that are like, yeah, hey, I'm ready to come back. And they're saying, nope, got to listen to HR, who we've had our battles with HR, especially when it's got to do with medical. And, my opinion, it's just my opinion only, is they feel that they're the doctor sometimes and they're doing what's right for the member, and they're not. So I had to fight for quite a bit. Actually put a grievance in, and I was fortunate enough to win my grievance. And shortly thereafter, I was able to go and do my block training. This was kind of interesting, is I went to block training. It was just after COVID, when you only did the 2 days. So I passed everything, only to find out that I had to go to Aurelia to do my 4-day block training, because I didn't have my first aid CPR, which I knew. But I had to repeat it because the block training that I went to, and it's not the fault of the trainers, because they said I passed everything: scenarios, firearms, the whole 9 yards, use of force. I needed this reintegration training. That was never communicated to me. So I wasn't too happy about doing 2 block trainings like 3 weeks apart, but I wanted to get back to the road, and I went and did it anyway. So I had to go up to Aurelia for 4 days. It was a good time with the training group up there, good bunch of guys and gals, and we had fun and got my use of force back. And then when I came back, because of my restrictions, if you want to call them restrictions, I had to, they put me on min sergeant, even though I wanted to work the front line. So we fought over that. My doctor wanted to ease me back into it. She clearly stated that she wanted me doing frontline policings to give me some exposure to the front line again and to dealing with calls, so I could be properly assessed to see how I'm making out, and then slowly progress me back onto the full 8, 10, or 12-hour shift, whatever we're working, and doing full frontline calls for service with my people. And that was resisted for quite a while until the grievance was done, and then finally in 2012 I guess it's 2021, May of 21, where I actually went back onto a shift. I still had a restriction. I couldn't work nights, so I worked a 11 to 11 shift. However, that was the only restriction that I had at the end. And when you're getting old, those night shifts are hard to work anyway. But there were times that, I wish I could have worked nights, because I always was a night person. But you know what, you got to do what you got to do, and have your goals. And my goal was met. But I had to struggle. It was a struggle getting there. It was very frustrating. I'm sitting there shaking my hand going, hey, pick me. I'll go back on the road. But I need to slowly go back and get exposed and do those things. And that wasn't even taken in consideration. Nope, you're going to do them in. And members don't need that. When they're trying to get back to, where they want to be, and hitting those roadblocks, it doesn't make it better for the member. It makes it worse, and it makes it very frustrating. And you get the attitude that you started getting the attitude that you hate the OPP. One of my goals for when I retired was I didn't want to leave disgruntled. I wanted to leave happy, and fortunate enough for me, I didn't leave disgruntled. I had a couple instances on the road with I saw a couple killed on an ATV. Two of them I saw as I passed by. I looked in my mirror and they pulled out in front of a vehicle. That was one of my triggers. I was involved in a pursuit fatality with a motorcycle in 2012, and that was my start of my PTSD journey, I guess, if you want to call it a journey or nightmare. But anyways, when I said that things have changed, I can only speak for my detachment and my experiences. My detachment was great. My staff sergeant was awesome. Both staff sergeants were awesome. They came, made sure I was all right. I spent a lot of time in the water in my career, so I started to get some of that anxiety back after 24 hours. It was okay, the first 24, and then after that it started to hit me a little bit, and they came to me, and instead of going off, how about do you want to work the boat? Want to go back on the water? Absolutely. So I felt I was still at work, but a little disconnected from the road, but the water was where I like to be, because that's where I spent the majority of my career was being a Marine officer. And because of that, it allowed me not to miss any work. And at least I know at my detachment that with the support now, especially the support that I received with a couple of instances like that, that helped me get through it and to remain on the road without having to go off and deal with it. So that's very important too, is when the member gets support. I know I'm getting a little off topic, but the return to work and support is hand in hand. And if you're not getting the proper return to work that you need, then the member looks at that as not being supported, and you feel that you're not being supported, and you may or may not be supported. And that just sets you back, and it delays it and delays it and delays it. And it's very frustrating. And until you've been put in those shoes, it's easy to say, yeah, I understand what you're going through. Well, you don't until you've gone through it. And even when you've gone through it, you can't really relate to what other people go through, because everybody's different. But I think there still needs to be a little bit of work with the return to work process.
Well, I'm sure some people will be listening to what you're saying here, Steve, and just can't thank you enough for sharing your journey with us, because, like you said, every case is different, and some people can't go back to work. Some people can. Some people want to. Some people don't. And,
100%.
It's it's a tricky situation. But you've dealt with it admirably, and you're most definitely an example of how to persevere for others, for sure. If there's any OPPA members or family members, whether you're a sworn member or civilian member, they're out there listening to this, and you're thinking about how do I kind of get hooked up with some help, just know you are eligible for the OPPA's Encompass Mental Health Wellness Program, and their website is encompasscare.ca, and I'm just going to spell it out for you. There's not two S's in it, because when they named the program, they didn't want to have ass in it. encompasscare.ca, encompasscare.ca. It has an abundance of resources on that site, and you can call anytime, even if it's a crisis, 24/7. 1-866-794-9117. And the OPP also has the Healthy Workplace team, and that includes people that are auxiliary officers and some of the people that might not be eligible for the Encompass program. The auxiliaries are volunteers and stuff like that. So just make sure that you're reaching out to somebody if you feel you need it. So, moving on, Steve, I kind of want to know a little bit more about what it's like to be an executive role in the OPPA. And we were talking about this. We want more people to get involved. Can you give us some insight into your years of OPPA involvement, kind of what motivated you to get involved, and what is actually entailed with having these roles?
Certainly. Well, I think with my parents both having some type of union backgrounds, that kind of inspired me to get involved in the association, union per se. So yeah, I got involved really early on as a detachment rep, and then had some couple years off here and there, and then went into the executive roles. And it's a busy spot, especially when you get in the executive roles. Phone's going off all the time. You're dealing with SIU matters, any type of injury to an officer, anytime someone's discipline matters, whether it's OPROL or that new civilian insight, whatever they call them now. So you're busy. It's if you're going to be part of the association executive, then before you do it, and I encourage people to do it, it opens your eyes, and you get to have those good chats with both local management and at your regional level. And then if you go to the AGM, you can see what command staff has, the commissioner's command staff has to say, and ask some questions and things like that. But it's a very busy position. That's one of the things that I really noticed when I left the spot at the end of December of last year. Was my phone pretty much went quiet. And it's kind of an eerie feeling. It's like you're always checking your phone to see if you missed a call or whatever, but I didn't. So that was something, I'll be honest with you, that was something nice that when I retired, I didn't have to worry about looking at my phone all the time.
It's a good feeling.
What's that?
That's a good feeling.
It is a very good feeling. However, I do miss, people ask me, do you miss the job? I said, I don't miss the job, but I miss the people. I miss that interaction with the people. And the busiest time of the year for me in those executive roles, it was always when it come time to pick vacation. And I don't know what it's like now, but even up till last year, it was the same thing. There's always a question about vacation and seniority rights and Why do members with seniority get to choose certain things and stuff like that? So that's always been a busy time of the year, over and over and over again. It's the way people interpret things, but hopefully this year was a little bit easier for the folks.
Yeah, it's always an issue. Who gets the good time off in the summer?
Right. That's one of the things that we have to keep cognizant too. Not only, it goes hand in hand for your mental health, is you do need time off, right? You do, you deserve it. You've earned it. And, take it when you can and spend time with your family, because your family are the ones that are going to support you the most.
I 100% agree with you, Steve. Obviously, you were very well respected in what you did in your roles. Back in 2022, you were the recipient of the highest honor of the OPP Association when you were awarded the Bill Elliott Award. And that award is not given out every year, only when a very worthy candidate is nominated and overwhelmingly respected for their work. So I got to watch you get that award. It was a great evening, and it was a pleasure to see you awarded this award for your dedication to your branch, to the OPPA, and to your community at large. So congratulations. I know you're a humble guy, and you probably didn't want me to say that, but it needs to be said.
I do appreciate that. Yeah, it was quite a surprise, and yes, I was actually. People laugh because I'm not usually a loss of words, but I was definitely I was a loss of words that night when I received the award. And there's a lot of people that are very much entitled to that award as well, who put in a lot of time, in both community and in the OPPA, and deserve it just as much. And I was just very humbled and surprised.
Yeah, well, very, very well deserving, Steve. And some of that recognition on whoever nominated you, I don't know who it was, but
it was Deb Kofi.
Yes, that's awesome. Well, she definitely had it bang on. Some of that recognition that was announced that night, to a standing ovation, I might add, had to do with your community work. And my understanding is that you're involved in the Humane Society, local minor hockey, and that you're also pretty good at volleyball. And I was just wondering, can you give us some insight into your community work outside of the OPPA?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I don't know if I'm pretty good at volleyball or not. I'm getting old and a little chunky, so not as good as I used to be when I was younger. But anyhow, so back a number of years ago, around 2010, I believe it was, I got involved in the local Humane Society and sat on the board there. And during my tenure there, for a couple terms, it also helped me with my OPPA involvement with the Humane Society. They brought in a corporate lawyer, and we were sent to board school and understood how boards worked and what type of board we were, and Robert's Rules of Order. And back then it was the Corporations Act that we were supposed to be following. And so I learned a lot there, and not only that, is just helping the animals. Did a lot of travel, picking up dogs mostly from northern Ontario, and a couple of times we went to the southern states, Kentucky. We went down to Mississippi to pick up dogs. I think we picked up 40 dogs down in Mississippi and brought them back. And I think I did around 8 trips in total between Canada and the United States. So that was fun. We don't do that anymore, but that was a good time, and it was for a good cause. And I also was involved in my both my boys' hockey teams. One or both at the same time for, I think it was 17 years. I was a trainer on the hockey team, and it was fun. You got to, I liked it because the kids got to see another side of a police officer, that police officers are actually people too. And, back then, if you were working, you could stop in, and the odd time I had to go on the bench because if anyone was aware of hockey, you have to have a trainer or you can't play. So I was fortunate enough back then that they allowed me to do that. So they'd sometimes see me in my uniform, and then most times it was off duty, but they got to see that you were somebody outside the uniform. You weren't just the uniform walking around, and so you're able to, I think, get through to younger kids, and you're out there talking to them all the time, and they can respect you both on and off duty, and I think that goes a long way with our younger children growing up to see that.
Well, thanks for all the community work you've done, Steve, and we're kind of bringing it home here for the end of the episode, but we often try to ask our guests for their 3 wishes for change, and that could be any type of change in the world, in the OPP, and the OPPA, and you never know who is listening who can actually implement the ideas that are talked about here. And we've actually got almost 80,000 downloads of this podcast since we started it. So, and we have received feedback that people's ideas mentioned here have actually been actions. So, can you share with us your 3 wishes, Steve?
Oh boy, sure. Well, my number one, I think one that's close to me is for more people to get involved in our association. Take the step and get involved. One of the biggest things is we've advocated for this, and unfortunately at our branch meetings, we're not getting a big turnout, so the message doesn't get out there. But, I wish people would get signed up for the members only website, and then you at least get the emails and any notices that what's going on involving the association when your branch meetings are and things like that. And you get to know your branch reps, and then you won't feel so bad for reaching out for advice or things like that. And just attend the meetings and the functions. It's surprising what you'll learn, and your voice is always listened to. A lot of times you hear people complaining, but they've never gone to a meeting, or they've never reached out to the rep to find out what's going on. They hear rumors and innuendos going on, and they join the negative bandwagon. And I feel there's more positive than there is negative with the OPPA, and nothing's perfect. It will never be perfect, but they strive to be perfect. And I know that with my involvement, I wouldn't be involved if I didn't feel that people were there for all the right reasons, and that is for the membership. And my wish is more people would get involved. And now that we have a lot of new hires, get involved now and see it through your career. And even if you don't be a rep or an executive or whatever, just come out, voice your voice. So that's my first one, is to get more people involved. And this could have been number 1 as well, but I'll put it down as number 2 because I was more thinking of OPPA stuff. But I truly wish that our mental health was taken more seriously. We've come a long way, but early in my career, there was no supports. My situation wouldn't have become so bad had I taken time off, if I was engaged earlier. But we now have the supports. I believe that we have the supports. I'm sure other people argue that we don't, but from what I see, we do. And from what I've dealt with, we do. And please consider using them, even if it's for preventive mental health maintenance check-ins, or preventive mental health maintenance and check-ins. Because you never know when that bad call will happen or something terrible will happen in your personal life. It's always good to be on top of having good relationships with therapists or or psychologists that you have a good rapport with. And if you go to a therapist or psychologist that you don't feel that jive, then pick another one. There's many out there. So that'd be my first/second, or second/first, I guess you could say. My third one, I'm going to say that I wish that the world would respect police more. The public, I wish the public would better understand our police work and our police officers. Policing is a very rewarding career, and our police officers do a world of good out there. Unfortunately, we only hear the bad things. And I guess my wish is for police to be better respected for the job they do and to be recognized for it.
Well, thanks a lot, Steve. Those are some important points for sure. And we're approaching about an hour here. We're close to an hour of our podcast, so we're nearing the end of our episode. I was wondering if you had any last words to share.
Well, I do. I'm never shy of a word. But, like I said, get involved. And if you're struggling, please reach out. Even if you're at work, sit down with your colleagues, sit down with your shift mates, and just shoot the shit about, if I can say that, what's going on. Your last call or whatever. It's always better to talk about it. Don't hold it in. But, I see a lot of people are suffering, and, if you're on that edge there where you don't want to say anything and because you think it's going to affect your career, well, the doctors and that aren't supposed to be telling the OPP anything, and you're far better off going to get the help. So if there's even one person out there that's listening to this and they're debating, well, like I said earlier, if you don't shoot, you don't score. Go out and look for some help.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. You've been very candid with us, and I hope you enjoy the AGM next week. And there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that you will continue to share your insight and knowledge, and you'll be continuing to help others.
Well, thanks, Scott. I appreciate that.
That is our episode for today. You have been listening to retired OPP Sergeant Steve MacNally talking about his career as an OPP officer and why it is important to get involved in the OPP Association. If you would like to reach Steve or you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, please email Emily and myself at communications@oppa.ca. Emily Brown will be back as our co-host on our next episode, and episodes of 10.5, the official podcast of the OPP Association. New ones are released every other Friday morning, and the episodes are audio only. They're published on all major podcasting platforms, now including YouTube. And please consider hitting that subscribe button on the platform of your choice so you never miss an episode. As well, there's an archive of our well over 100 episodes to date publicly available on our website at oppa.ca/media/podcast. And until next time, thank you for listening and stay safe.